Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Big Monday edition. Welcome to it, Dominic.
Happy Monday, Crudy Evan on the board. Happy Monday to our fair audience. A big show. Can't wait to get to it. What an intriguing couple of days.
You know, tomorrow's election day in the great state of Georgia, runoff election. So tomorrow's an election day. That makes it Election Day Eve, Dom, or as I'd like to think of it, the day we terminate the Constitution. According to the former president of the United States, his newest call, termination of all the articles of the Constitution, because he didn't like the outcome of the last election. So it's time to throw out the Constitution. And I'd like to hear our conservative friends defend this one. Really? I mean, defend this one. CJ, Gary, any of you, Dave from Mequon, any of you, defend setting aside the Constitution because he is so butthurt about the outcome of the last election that, you know, we should terminate the Constitution.
I have the specific quote here, Crudy, and allow me to read it to our audience. In case they haven't seen this one, here's what Trump put on his truthy socials. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? Massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. And then he followed up with an all caps, unprecedented fraud requires unprecedented cure.
Trump is the Terminator.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if some of the kids today have even seen the original Terminator movies.
Oh, they should. It's classic.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. But Trump is the Terminator of the Constitution. It took someone to kill the Constitution. Trump wants to be that guy. He really does, right? Isn't that his, well, although he denies that he said it now. You realize today, Monday.
Today, the next day?
There's a little change of tune. According to thehill.com, my source, Tom, former President Trump today insisted he does not want to terminate the Constitution, responding to broad backlash after he said over the weekend its rules and laws should be disregarded so he can return to the White House. Trump, in a parapost on the Truthy Social, responded to the fallout from his comments on Saturday that the 2020 election should be redone and he should be put back in office. The former president weighed in after internal Twitter communications showed company officials deciding to limit the spread of posts about allegations against Hunter Biden, President Biden's son, in the closing weeks of the 2020 election. Here is the newest statement from Trump. The fake news is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I wanted to terminate the Constitution. He did say that, right, Don?
Let's see. Massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. So if you say you're going to terminate the articles that are in the Constitution, you are, in fact, then terminating the Constitution. What's left?
Back to today's statement, Dom, because, you know, apparently revisionist history on it. The fake news is actually trying to convince the American people. And when I say fake news, in this case, on behalf of Trump, I mean Dominic. The fake news is trying to convince the American people I said it. I wanted to terminate the Constitution. This is simply more disinformation and lies. Now, when I do it louder like that, it's because he's speaking in all caps at that point. And understand, almost the entire rest of the post is all caps. Just like Russia, 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 all caps, and all their other hoaxes and scams, all caps. Trump wrote Monday afternoon saying he meant that steps, sorry, did a little Peter Brady there myself. Steps must be immediately taken to right the wrong, all caps. That's all he meant. Just burn it down, Dom. Just throw out, terminate the Constitution. You know, like a Hollywood movie.
It's a Hollywood nightmare. Crudy, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to tell you there's a little more from Trump in a separate all capitalized post. I'll try not to scream it at you folks. Trump wrote that if an election is irrefutably fraudulent, it should go to the rightful winner, or at a minimum be redone. Where open and blatant fraud is involved, there should be no time limit for change. It's kind of like he's making it up in the backyard. Like, I got the new rules to the club, and I can be the president of the club, and I always get to be the president of the club, even if the members vote for someone other than me to be the president, because that would be fraud.
There's only one way that works, is if you do it by brute force and you suspend law and order in this country. If you terminate articles in the Constitution, well, then maybe you could try to get away with it. A little bit here, Crudy. Ruth Marcus from the Washington Post, let's throw out a few points she had to make. Pause to take this in, she writes. The former and would-be future president has suggested suspending the Constitution in support of his deranged belief that he won the election and that its results are subject to change. A man who took the oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution now has hijacked our great founders in the service of his megalomania. No, this is insurrection by social media. Nothing, and certainly not imaginary fraud, capitalized or not, allows for the termination of constitutional guarantees. Trump is laying the groundwork for a coup. We can dismiss the post as just the latest Trumpian bluster, something he will never be capable of implementing. Yet the mere willingness to entertain and encourage extra constitutional action is alarming, coming from a man who is seeking to return to office, which is why Trump's words must be highlighted and called out. I'm past expecting Republican leaders to speak out. We know that foremost, their spines have collapsed and their courage reduced to a shrunken kernel. Trump says a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that it's ever going to happen, was the most that Rep. David Joyce, chair of the Republican governance group, could choke out in response to questions by ABC's George Stephanopoulos. The White House was right to rebuke Trump, quote, attacking the Constitution and all it stands for is anathema to the soul of our nation and should be universally condemned, spokesman Andrew Bates said in a statement. If anything, the words should have been issued in the name of the president himself. Others made more puzzling choices. For a full day, the New York Times, as far as I can find, she writes, made no mention of Trump's post. I assume this was not an oversight, but a deliberate decision not to let Trump hijack its product for his unpatriotic purposes. I get it, but I'm glad the Times relented with a news story Sunday afternoon. The episode embodies a paradox of dealing with Donald Trump. We don't want to give him oxygen, yet there are times we dare not ignore him. This is one. It should be neither excused nor forgotten. And I get it. You know, we talk a lot of Trump around here sometimes, Crudy, and I can appreciate people get a little tired of it. But this is, come on, people. He wants to terminate articles in the Constitution. Because what? Because Elon Musk found some Twitter files that he put out in what, communications with Biden to get Hunter Biden's private part pics off the internet? I mean, is that what we're talking about? Because there's no smoking gun from any of that I've seen reported. So Trump just uses another opportunity to protest, to say that he should be the president and to show you his authoritarian ties. And the Republicans that do not stand up to this, you are not law and order. You have no courage. Zero courage, Crudy. We got a little bit. I know I'm going on a little bit of rant here, Crudy, but just bear with me if you would for just a moment. Evan,
that's my option.
We got this guy, Dave Joyce, on George Stephanopoulos. And I don't catch a lot of the Sunday shows. I happen to catch George on this, and he let Joyce have it. He kept asking the questions, how you could support this, how you can support this. Here is what Joyce had to say. Evan, I'm going to need your help here, please. Cut number 27. Joyce, again, this is the Republican governors group. This is what he had to say about supporting the nominee, even after what he said. 27, please.
I will support whoever the Republican nominee is.
I will support whoever the Republican nominee is. Stephanopoulos goes on to say, that's a remarkable statement. You support a candidate who'd come out for suspending the Constitution? And Joyce goes on to say, well, he kinda. He goes on to say, Trump says a lot of things. You have to take him in context. And right now I have to worry about making sure that his Republican governance group and Republican majority, that we make things work for the American people. See how he's trying to spin this? And I can't be really chasing every one of these crazy statements that came out about from any of these candidates that come out. Did it stutter?
Just the most recent one, like, let's terminate the Constitution. How about that one? Can you comment on that one?
Stephanopoulos. But that's an extraordinary statement. You can't come out against someone who's for suspending the Constitution. Joyce. Well, first off, he has no ability to suspend the Constitution. Secondly, and then George jumps in, but he says he's for it. Well, he says a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that it's ever going to happen. So you've got to accept exact fact from fantasy. And fantasy is that we're going to suspend the Constitution and go backwards. We're moving forward, and we're going to continue to move forward as a Republican majority and a Republican conference. Stephanopoulos. I don't see how you can move forward if your candidate is for suspending the Constitution, but thank you for your time this morning. I mean, what a bunch of wusses. I mean, zero spine.
A little of that sound. Oh, maybe we're a little short on time, though.
Maybe just jam. Yeah, Evan, just jam the last little bit out, if you would. Well, cut 28, I think we're on.
I just don't think that at this point he'll be able to get there, because I think there's a lot of.
No, that's not it. That's talking about Speaker McCarthy. 29 might be more appropriate, but I tell you what, let's take our first break of the day. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Monday edition, the Terminate the Constitution edition, if the former guy gets his way. And if you'd like to defend him, join us. 844-967-2789.
I started the process. All the troops are coming back home. They couldn't stop the process.
That's one of my mission parameters. Your confusion is not rational.
I grew up hearing that women are bad with money, but like many of you, I spent years paying bills, managing checking accounts, and taking care of my family. So turns out women are pretty good with money after all. And now I'm taking control of my financial future by saving for retirement. It's never too late to start, and there's a great website to help you. Check out WeSaySaveIt.org and jumpstart your retirement savings on your budget and your timeline. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Cardinal put out these weird, sad videos interviewing incapacitated elders in their nursing homes that don't have the ability to say, don't use me as your political prop.
If they are what you say they are, then you shouldn't be doing it how you did it.
Yes, it was the kids using the parents as props. Well, my old man hasn't talked since 76. Of course, he would have voted for Trump. That's the evidence. Videos, people that can't talk.
It is wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And we're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Cloudy skies expected tonight with lows around 27. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Overcast tomorrow. Mixed precipitation possible at times. Highs level off around 37. Overcast again tomorrow night. Lows level off around 26. A dusting of snow tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 35 degrees.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic celebrated the birthday of number one son, middle kid, Caden, yesterday.
Ah, happy birthday, Caden.
I know. I can't believe the kid's 19. And most weekends out of the home, but this weekend home from college. Little urban air and some good times with his girlfriend, man. So anyways, nice to see Caden this weekend. Also want to acknowledge the hard work of the team here at Civic Media. The first parade, Waukesha Christmas parade after the tragedy. It wasn't the first year anniversary per se, but it was the first parade yesterday in Waukesha. And we had 11 or 12 of our teammates there. So thanks to all that participated, James and Tell and Don and Earl and Johnny and Calvin, and I was there and Roxanne was there. And it was a cavalcade of Civic Media stars. If I didn't acknowledge them all, Corey and his son Dexter were there. Lots of good people there. And then we all went out for dinner. Don, we missed you at the dinner, but good victuals. Apparently a nice steakhouse right down the way from us in Waukesha.
Nice.
Eric's Steakhouse. H-A-U-S, house style. But it was damn good. So anyways, enjoyed the company of the team and the coverage on WAUK, and very excited about the bowl game coming up very soon, December 27th. The Badgers got a warm weather bowl game. So that'll come up on the 27th. We'll play down in the Civic Media app. I'll let you know, Dom, if I got to do some reporting from Phoenix. We are boots on the ground at Badger practice. We don't have a formal Cubs sports reporter. I could be that guy, Dom.
I mean, someone's got to be that person.
I hope someone can be that person. Maybe me. But Dom, there's important political topics and good friends of ours to talk to on the phone today as well at 844-967-2789. Before we get to the phones, I got to mention your girls in it to win it, Tom. Election denier Janel Brandtjen is running to be your senator. And I mean, truth be known, she's been banned from the GOP caucus on the assembly side. She's got nowhere else to go. So she might as well run for the Senate, right? She's going to be stripped of her committee assignments. I mean, she charged the mound on Speaker Robin Voss. No one would be a better representative of you than election denier Janel Brandtjen.
I mean, maybe the guy she's running against, election denier Rep. Dan Knodl of Germantown. I mean, we have so many election deniers to choose from.
Well, he was only, one of the 15 Republicans that wrote a letter to the former vice president the day before January 6th, asking him not to consider the actual electoral outcome. Set it aside. Week, 10 days. Let's see if we can shake it up on the state legislative level. And there, of course, is a case before the Supreme Court this week. Jim Santel, former U.S. attorney, my dining companion last night, talked a lot about that Moore case. Oral arguments happening effectively that would make state legislatures in charge of elections. Not the courts. The courts wouldn't say, oh, that was not a fair election. It would entirely be the purview of the state legislature.
Of the partisan state legislatures.
Well, very partisan here. I mean, when you bake in the gerrymander to the cake, Dom, we've got a 2/3 supermajority in the Senate. When Janel Brandtjen, your new state senator,
hell no,
in the spring, Dom, it'll be a supermajority. Hell, they'll have the power to also impeach Tony Evers' people. So you'll have that to look forward to. We all will, Dom. All because we don't know someone courageous enough to go run as a Dem and beat her.
I think hopefully this week we'll find out who would actually step up and do that. Because this, obviously, this is my district. This is not acceptable. Dan Knodl, Janel Brandtjen. What? Election deniers representing me? I mean, I'm longing for the good old days of Alberta Darling, which is terrible because she didn't do squat for me either. So.
Dog, dare ya.
Come on. There's got to be some righteous, awesome Dems to stand up and run for this. Please, God, this cannot happen.
It's not going to be. There are 3 assembly districts that make up this Senate district. It's not Deb Andrejka. She just won re-election. Said, I can't go through another election. Effectively, she's not the one. And the other 2 assembly districts, Dan Knodl and Janel Brandtjen, both said we're in. So both the Republicans want this seat. It's going to be, I mean, the Vicky McKenna fill-in today, Brian Schimming, former, vice the Republican Party. He led today talking about this is the election of your lifetime. The Supreme Court and, of course, the 8th Senate District. Who will represent Dominic Salvia?
844-967-2789. We're going to find out that answer real soon because there's not much time, right? You got to go get, it's a primary in February, then the election's in April. You got to go right now. You should be collecting signatures. So let's hear about it. 844-967-2789. Britt from Humboldt County. We'll get you in this segment. Britt, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Britt.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good, man.
Great spirits. Hey, I just wanted to point out, all things considered, it seems like based on the way the House went, so marginally and really kind of reducing any potential McCarthy speakership to rubble to even start the whole thing. And then add in the fact that, it was such a close, or the fact that we've already won the Senate and we have a chance to have another likely additional vote in the Senate. I think things turned out about as well as they can going into 2024. Pelosi had a chance to retire with some empathy and to turn in some new leadership, which I think helps the Democratic Party. And all things considered, I think we're in about as good a shape going into 2024 as Trump self-immolates the entire Republican Party. I think that really the conditions are right for Democrats to continue to build on their coalition and for the Republicans to completely fall apart and for Trump to lose power going into 2024 an enormous amount.
Great points, Britt. I totally agree. I see no reason for either of those trends to stop. We are the Devil's Advocates coming back with your calls, 844-967-2789.
So right.
From Bernie to Biden to even Trump supporters, Devil Radio is the political fix for every Wisconsinite. Always streaming at darnwi.com.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
We stand on the shoulders of women who came before us.
Women who fought for their own financial futures.
And now it's our turn.
Join us. Visit WeSaySaveIt.org and take control of your financial future by saving for retirement.
A message from AARP.
I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute. The Supreme Court today heard the case of a Christian graphic artist who objects to designing wedding websites for gay couples. Justice Sonia Sotomayor asked her attorney what other categories of people the designer may refuse to serve.
How about people who don't believe in interracial marriage? Or about people who don't believe that disabled people should get married? Where's the line?
Lori Smith's attorney, Kristen Wagoner, offered this.
The line is that no one on any side of any debate has to be compelled to express a message that violates their core convictions.
Tens of thousands of people are bracing for days without electricity in Moore County, North Carolina. 2 power substations were shot up. Governor Roy Cooper calls it
a criminal attack.
Sound courtesy WTVD. Stocks closed lower on Wall Street. The S&P 500 fell 1.8%. I'm Ben Thomas.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. Divorce can be complicated, especially if children are involved. If you're a father and want to protect your role in your children's lives, remember Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men with matters like these for 30 years, and we'd love to help you.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Atlanta area attorneys. 404-793-0000. Online at CordellCordell.com. 1 Glen Lake Parkway Northeast, Suite 975, Atlanta, Georgia 30328.
Looking for the perfect gift? Get them a shirt from Untuck It. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked. They're the easiest way to keep him looking sharp and feeling comfortable. You can't go wrong with their super soft flannels, wrinkle-free shirts, performance shirts with stretch, and cozy sweaters that are all perfect for right now. They even have a line for her. Find the perfect gift for every guy on your list at one of 80 plus Untuck It stores or at untuckit.com. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. The former Milwaukee Election Commission deputy director is free after posting bail at her initial court appearance Friday. Kimberly Zapata is pleading not guilty to 3 misdemeanor counts of lying in order to obtain an absentee ballot. She's also charged with misconduct in public office. That's a felony. Zapata says she was trying to point out how easy she believes it is to falsify military absentee ballots. Wisconsin gas prices are falling. AAA reports the statewide average for regular was $3.07 a gallon on Friday. That's about 60 cents lower than a month ago. Some stations are selling gas for less than $3 a gallon. Experts are predicting prices will go even lower this week. In sports, the Bucks are at Orlando tonight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Monday edition. Dominic, I'd like to turn my attention to the reporting of Molly Beck talking about your senatorial district. Republican banned from GOP Assembly Caucus enters race for Alberta Darling's vacant Senate seat. It sounds kind of bad when you put it that way.
You know, when you're banned from your own caucus and your caucus is bat guano crazy, what does that say about you?
It's time to run for the Senate. Looking for a promotion. The state's legislature's most prominent supporter of overturning the 2020 election result has launched a campaign for state Senate just weeks after her Republican colleagues in the state assembly banned her from meeting with them privately. You know, you can't come to our private meetings. Well, let me read on. Republican State Rep Dom's girl, Janel Brandtjen of Menominee Falls, launched a campaign Monday to replace State Senator Alberta Darling of River Falls, also Dom's girl, a longtime Republican lawmaker who retired from the legislature's upper house last week. Brandtjen will challenge one of her assembly colleagues who barred her from the closed caucus meetings, Rep. Dan Knodl of Germantown and Robert Albrightson of Brown Deer in February's 21st primary. Democratic State Rep. Deb Andrenka. I'm thinking of a former Badger hockey player. Deb Andrenka of Whitefish Bay decided against launching a campaign for the seat after here's a statement from your girl Brandtjen, though, Dom. After long hours of consulting with my family, friends, and countless political allies, both of them, I have decided that the best place for me to continue to represent the people of Wisconsin would be the Senate.
Yeah.
God bless America. A little bit more. I can guarantee that I will continue to fight for the principles that every American shares. No one has fought harder for life, Second Amendment rights, keeping your family safe, following every family to send their children to a great school. I'm excited to continue fighting. She's a fighter, Dom, mostly for Trump. In her role as Assembly Elections Committee chairwoman, Brandtjen has over the last 2 years invited 2020 election conspiracy theorists who have promoted, you may say, Dom, accusations of corruption against elections officials without providing evidence to testify at the state capitol. Think whitey righty talk radio host Dan O'Donnell.
Right. Come testify without any evidence. Just say what you feel, baby.
Her focus on the 2020 election has drawn national attention, including And Dom, you share a birthday with this man, including from former President Donald Trump, who invited Brandtjen to speak at the rally, the last rally held in Wisconsin. We were there.
Oh, it was not glorious.
We broadcast it back for our fair audience. Dom felt like we owed it to him. She first called the outcome of the 2020 election to be overturned in July because tyranny is at Wisconsin's door. Little bit more here, Dom. We have been told for months now that decertification is impossible, meaning there's no downside to cheating in Wisconsin elections. I'm sorry, I gotta check myself there.
I know, dude.
How many more times do we need to endure this election injustice? She wrote in a statement at the time. The move prompted her Senate counterpart, Republican State Senator Kathy Bernier, to call for her removal as Elections Committee chairwoman. And Knodl, who was first elected to the state assembly in 2008, said in a statement launching his campaign that he intends to focus on policies related to inflation, education, and public safety. You want to hear his quote, Doug?
Yeah, I got it here for you, Crudy. When I entered office, Wisconsin was unable to control its spending despite being one of the highest taxed states in the country. With bold conservative reforms, we turned multi-billion-dollar deficits, not true, into unprecedented surplus. Thank you, Tony Evers, while providing tax relief for every single Wisconsin family, homeowners, and small business. As state senator, I will vote to support law enforcement, expand educational opportunities, roll back bureaucratic outreach, and pursue continued tax reform. On Monday, Knodl suggested Brandtjen's policy-making work has been hampered by her conflicts with colleagues. You think? Primary election
conflicts with reality and colleagues, Dom?
Well, I think he has it as well. We'll see if Molly Beck gets to it. Another quote from Knodl from today. Primary election voters will have to decide who can be the most effective state senator, and to do that, you have to have good working relationships with other legislators, he said, noting he has good relationships with the Assembly and Senate Republicans. Republicans are likely to put a priority on the race to replace Darling, as it will determine whether the GOP caucus preserves its supermajority in the state Senate. By adding enough members in the November 8th election to achieve a supermajority, as Crudy mentioned, the Republican caucus now has the ability to suspend Senate rules, utilize a power to impeach, and remove state officials ranging from the governor to cabinet secretaries to judges. If a Democratic candidate does not enter the special election for state Senate, the winner of the Republican primary is all but certain to become the next new member of the Senate. Evers has set the special election to replace Darling to coincide with the primary and general dates in the spring election, which will take place April 4th.
Triple dog dare you,
you got to be kidding me, man. I mean, this is asinine. And Molly Beck, and while I love Molly Beck, you did not get to the point. And I think we should not let this go. As wackadoodle as Janel Brandtjen is with her Trumpiness, Dan Knodl was one of the 15 signatories to the letter to Trump on January 5th. I'm sorry, to Pence on January 5th to say, hey, don't certify this election, right? He's one of them. So what is he, Janel Brandtjen light? I mean, what do we get with either one of these? They're both the same. They're both Trumpsters. And what do we know about the Trumpsters? What did Trump say yesterday? Yesterday, it's still on Truthy Social, Republicans. Terminate the Constitution. So
well, that's his plan. What's yours, Selvia?
to uphold the Constitution. This is unacceptable. So I'm looking forward to seeing which of our Democratic friends will step up and take on these jokers.
Waiting.
844-967-2789. Waiting for you. We'll screen the calls and we'll get to our fair audience momentarily. We promise. 844-967-2789. Go ahead, Curdy.
Well, I was just going to say, it's such a fine field that's shaping up for that, that special elective race. Dom, I would point out, I think there's a certain temperament. I think that abortion will still be on the ballot.
Yes.
The spring election. And I know that Robin Voss, I know that those that would be supportive of holding on to Patience Rogan-Sachs' Wisconsin Supreme Court seat would really, really like to move past the issue of abortion. But I heard Republicans laying out all the issues that are at the table with the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat and with the balance of the court. If the Democrats won that seat, what that would mean. And it's really a litany of issues, everything from the 2/3 majority baked in the cake through the very partisan gerrymandering. That's baked in there. Everything to Act 10 could be revisited with a change of the makeup of the court. Now, I mostly, at this late hour, I mostly care about the ultra partisan gerrymander of the legislative districts and the fact that we've long since stopped getting fair representation through these maps. And we've had them for 10 plus years, and the new maps are worse than the old maps. So we, the people, none of us, not even Republicans, are being served by this current makeup, by this current partisan gerrymandering. So it is really a very important thing. And the 1849 abortion ban, well, that's going to end up at the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Whether or not there is validity to the current ban, the current state law, that will probably be decided by this Wisconsin Supreme Court, either as a 4-3 conservative or a 4-3 quote unquote liberal majority. What would you prefer if, let's just say, your rights had been taken away under Dobbs and Roe v. Wade had been overturned?
Yeah.
And you're, let's say, a Gen Z woman. Can you be expected to turn out for one more election for the Wisconsin Supreme Court in April? I hope so. It's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Because you know what? I hope the makeup of the current, and of course it matters. A 2/3 majority allows for a lot of malfeasance from these Republicans. I mean, bad stuff can happen if they have the power to impeach from the minority. Effectively, the minority has a 2/3 majority legislatively because, malfeasance baked into the cake. Well, that's the most important issue facing the state of Wisconsin, really, for the next 10 years. Because if we don't win back fair legislative seats, and I'm not going to say a Democratic majority, that may or may not happen. I just want a fair fight. If we don't have a fair fight, if elections don't matter, and let's say the current U.S. Supreme Court decides after hearing oral arguments, well, let's give all the power over election administration to state lawmakers, like the 2/3 advantage baked into the cake here for Republicans. Well, democracy is effectively over at that point, folks. You know what I'm saying? We don't live in a democracy if state lawmakers get to make the election rules. That's certainly not what I signed up for. So it's kind of a big deal. I think that, and also that 8th Senate district, kind of a big deal. Wish we knew a qualified candidate. Someone with the issues, well informed of state level issues here in the state. Damn, if only we knew someone
would stand up and throw some haymakers and knock some rhetorical sense into these people. 844-967-2789. We don't need terminators of the Constitution, election deniers representing Wisconsin's Senate 8th District. Farmer Bill, you're up. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Bill.
Hey, love you guys. When I heard about this, whatever her name, stepping down, I was hoping I was going to hear something from Tony Evers that was like, yeah, we'll hold a special election when you Republicans step out of the seats that we've appointed new people for. I'm just thinking like the DNR, and I know there's others, but I'm sure smarter people than I can tell me why Tony Evers can't sort of delay the election to sort of get the people he's appointed. And
there are certain structures within state law, depending on your resignation date. The governor only has so long to name a special election, and all the logic says you do it in concurrence with the existing elections. But let's not forget the Republicans did try to decouple, I believe, the Supreme Court election from the Wisconsin partisan primary back when Dan Kelly got his ass handed to him by 163,000 votes. Maybe they saw it coming, Farmer Bill, that he was a god-awful candidate. Still is.
He still is.
Yeah.
And they were, of course, unsuccessful in that effort, Bill, because you got to, logic would dictate. I mean, you're not going to have and incur the additional cost for another election when you got another one coming up that can meet the time frames, regardless of whether or not you could think you get some leverage out of it from your political adversaries.
The Dems, even if, and Bill, I like how you think, because in politics, shouldn't we use the leverage that we have? I mean, if Tony could force the Republicans to actually meet on his, let's say, his cabinet secretaries. I mean, he's 4 years, the governor of the state of Wisconsin, he doesn't have this full complement of cabinet secretaries because of the pettiness of Republicans. I mean, I get it. When they were trying to cut him off at the knees, Bill, the whole lame duck and, we'll show him. But 4 years later, after the man wins re-election and you're still not the party in control, except through your baked in the cake legislative gerrymander, maybe it's time to give the guy a couple of his cabinet secretaries. Maybe the guy at the DNR needs to step down now. Talking to you, Preen, you little semi-fascist. Come back, more Devil's Advocates, a Big Monday edition. Always bigger with your phone calls. 844-96-PARTY.
That she was totally inebriated, and she was all messed up.
She's a healthy female of age.
She would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
She'll be back.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom.
Hold my hand? You hold my hand. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Douglas LaFollette, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show.
Good to be here, Mike. Across the country, in most every state, the Secretary of State is the person who is in charge of the elections. And we've seen lots of hanky-panky in Florida back during the Al Gore elections, in Ohio and Georgia and Arizona and Michigan.
We appreciate you, round, sir.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
We are the boys between you say.
We are the boys.
It's Painful Concert number 3.
We are the boy band.
We're 5 and 19.
We are the boy band.
Always singing on key.
You love your kids enough to take them to see their favorite band. Love them enough to make sure they're buckled up in the back seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 27 tonight under overcast skies, north winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Mixed precipitation possible at times tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 37. Cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow night. Lows around 26. A dusting of snow tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 35 degrees.
Welcome,
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open, going back to them momentarily at 844-967-2789.
Now let's get to Jeannie. She's got a nominee. Jeannie, who do you nominate to be a candidate?
Hey, Jeannie.
Guys, I hope it's okay to call in with this, but I'm very well of a person who I think is very intelligent, a deep thinker. She's empathetic. He's passionate, but he's empathetic. He's very good at expressing his ideas. He can pull people into conversations. I think he'd be an outstanding leader, somebody that kids can look up to and people can look up to. He's somebody that's very trustworthy, and his name is Dom.
Oh, Gene.
How this works. He's knowledgeable of the history of the state of Wisconsin, especially in the political arena. I think he'd be a great leader and a great asset to the state of Wisconsin. And that's all I've got to say. And I sure hope you would sleep on it and dream about it, because I think, Dom, you'd be great.
Oh, thank you, Gene.
You know, I really, and thank you for listening, Judy. I really, really thought she meant Santa Claus.
I appreciate the set of
up to a Christmas miracle or something.
Gene, I get it, and I appreciate it, and I'm honored and humbled that you would think that. As I tell my kids, I am not a role model. I mean, these are some very strange times, and I am a little concerned given the circumstances of this election. I mean, whoever runs, and say a Dem runs and a Dem wins, you know, you're basically going to have to turn around and run again in 2 years, right? Because this is Alberta Darling's 2 years into her term. Not only that, you know, we have this other election going on as well. So I have often pondered of my political future. I've never had a situation occur where something like that could happen. I'd rather do a radio show. You know, I really enjoy doing this with Crudy. But I am concerned and really am anxious to see what's going to happen and who steps up from the Democratic Party in the next week.
Come on, man. It's like a part-time job. You're entitled to per diem. And quite frankly, you know, radio show. Hey, what that's getting in your way, that's stopping you. Real quick, there is an article, and we will get to more of the callers this hour. 844-967-2789. A little Supreme Court candidate function. They're already getting together. They all showed up except for the newly declared Judge Jennifer Doro. She apparently got stuck in traffic. But Mitchell, Protasewicz, and the god-awful Dan Kelly all showed up for a little candidate forum. And the hotly contested race for conservative Justice Patient Roganczak's seat could change the makeup of the court. We've talked about that quite a bit. Currently a 4-3 conservative majority. Mitchell, a former prosecutor and presiding judge of the county's juvenile division, Dane counties, and Protasewicz, a longtime prosecutor, are running as liberal candidates. Kelly and Doro are running as conservatives. But here's what Protasewicz had to say about the very topic I keep bringing up, the redistricting. Protasewicz said she's running to get partisan politics out of the Supreme Court. She called her opponent some of the most partisan actors on the bench. I can't tell you where I will end up on a case, but I can tell you I don't care what Donald Trump or Robin Vos wants, and I won't take into account what Joe Biden or Tony Evers thinks. I will uphold our constitutional freedoms without fear or favor. Dan Kelly said, "You're doing it wrong." Kelly responded by saying it is his job, or it is the job of a Supreme Court justice to rule without partisanship, something he never did. It was always a foregone conclusion. You knew what Kelly's vote was before he even cast it. He didn't surprise me a single time in his brief stay as a wanker appointment to the court, Dom. He never surprised me on a single freaking ruling. He was the ultimate partisan. A little bit from him. If the court was ever taken into account anything other than the law, it destroys the very concept of the rule of the law. And the picture of him, you cannot take a picture of Dan Kelly and not make him look sanctimonious. I don't know how you do that photographically other than the fact he's got resting bitch face. I don't know what to say about the man.
Maybe a shot from the back. 844-967-2789. Falcon from Madison. You will have the last word this hour. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, I just wanted to go back to Friday, if I could, and with the rail strike. Obviously, It's despicable what the rail companies are doing. 1.8 bill in stock buyback, and they couldn't take half of that 0.8 to pay for the damn 7 sick days for those people. Come on, man. But I have to say, Harvey K., come on, man. Harvey K., there's a little bit of a difference between federal contacts and President Obama and telling a private company that they have to give workers sick days. Yeah, Joe Biden can't do that, Harvey. Sorry, man. I just got to take Harvey to the woodshed on that. That was BS.
Well, Falcon, you understand that effectively Joe Biden was at the negotiating table with the workers, and I think he felt vested in the outcome. Obviously, didn't want a rail strike to happen, but just as much as he can wade in and be persuasive, he can take it to the Congress and say, hey, I want them to sign off on this contract. They force-fed it to the workers. Why could he, sir, not force-feed it to the owners of the companies and say, and there's 6 more sick days in there?
Yeah, because they're private companies, man. The president doesn't even get to do that. It's a private company. It's apples and oranges. A federal contract's a lot different than telling the CEO of a private company what to do. I wish he could. I wish Joe could tell him to give him 50 hours of or sick time or whatever.
But can't we effectively, it's within his power, Falcon, he could have nationalized the rail if it's important enough that we can pass federal legislation.
He'd need the votes for that, wouldn't he? And he does not have the votes for that.
But a bipartisan vote to force feed them the outcome of Biden's preferred contract, that apparently was within the kosher rules, Falcon. I guess I'm
just saying Harvey was being a little disingenuous there to be ripping on Joe. So, you can just make an executive order to give them more sick days. He can't do that, man. Come on, Harvey.
Dr. Harvey Kane. He's not Pope Harvey Kane.
And I would think, again, given the leverage that there is, if this is so important to the American economy and the American infrastructure and American security, it is absolutely ripe to be nationalized if that were to be the case. And hell, as I mentioned on Friday, if we're looking for ways to slow the economy down instead of raising the interest rates, let them go on strike. Let the American people feel what what Warren Buffett and the rail owners are sticking it to them.
Hey, Dom, did you know that Donald Trump borrowed lots of money from North Korea?
What?
We'll talk about that in the Hunter Biden laptop from hell in hour 2 comeback. More Devils.
Horse can have a strong influence on the weak-minded.
I know you got to be frustrated.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmedicine.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Salvatore's Tomato Pies, home of Madison's best farm-to-table pizza, is hiring. We are seeking line cooks, prep cooks, dishwashers, pizza makers, bartenders, servers, delivery drivers, and hosts. Sales offers great pay, free shift meals, paid time off, and health insurance available for those working 30 hours a week. Students are welcome too. Positions available at all locations, Madison, Monona, and Sun Prairie. Stop into any location for an immediate interview or apply online at Salvatore's Tomato Pie.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The Supreme Court's heard another clash over religion and gay rights. The case of a Christian graphic artist who objects to designing wedding websites for gay couples. Sagar Magani has the arguments.
Lori Smith says ruling against her would force artists of all types to do work against their beliefs. The High Court's conservative majority sounded sympathetic, with Neil Gorsuch describing Smith as someone who will and does sell websites to everyone.
But she won't sell a website that requires her to express a view about marriage that she finds offensive to her religious beliefs.
The big question from Sonia Sotomayor and the liberals.
How about people who don't believe in interracial marriage? Or about people who don't believe that disabled people should get married? Where's the line?
Colorado and most other states have a law saying if a product is offered to the public, it must be offered to all customers. The High Court has sided with religious plaintiffs in a series of cases. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Tomorrow is runoff election day for Georgia's Senate seat. Incumbent Raphael Warnock told supporters today the country needs people who are not content.
Who know that while we live in a great country, we can always make it greater.
Republican challenger Herschel Walker Sunday.
We call this senator former senator. That's it for now. He's going to be former senator because it's time for him to go.
Meantime, Norman Hall reports the top elections official in Texas has resigned.
Texas Secretary of State John Scott is stepping down after just a year and will return to private law. He was appointed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who will pick his successor. Scott's tenure saw the launch of new voting laws that resulted in counties throwing out nearly 23,000 mail ballots.
Stocks closed lower on Wall Street. This is AP News.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. Divorce can be complicated, especially if children are involved. If you're a father and want to protect your role in your children's lives, remember Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men with matters like these for 30 years, and we'd love to help you.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Atlanta area attorneys. 404-793-0000. Online at CordellCordell.com. 1 Glen Lake Parkway Northeast, Suite 975, Atlanta, Georgia 30328.
Looking for the perfect gift? Get him a shirt from Untuck It. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked. They're the easiest way to keep him looking sharp and feeling comfortable. You can't go wrong with their super soft flannels, wrinkle-free shirts, performance shirts with stretch, and cozy sweaters that are all perfect for right now. They even have a line for her. Find the perfect gift for every guy on your list at one of 80+ Untuck It stores or at untuckit.com. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Viva la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
This is Chad Spate. In 1992, I moved to Madison to pursue a PhD at UW, and I started a residential remodeling company called Chad's Carpentry. I was eager to make a difference, to change the world, and I soon realized that our remodeling company was a great place to start. We pride ourselves on understanding how houses work so that your home improvement project actually improves your home, and we love what we do. To learn more, go to chadsdesignbuild.com, and thank you, Madison, for 30 great years.
Hello, I'm Sue Peck with Evolution Financial. Have you found yourself at that tipping point where you realize your finances have become just a bit too complicated? Or maybe you have so much on your plate and you'd love to focus on and support the passions that are most important to you. If you're looking for a local, independent, fee-only, fiduciary financial advisor, contact me, Sue Peck, CFP professional with Evolution Financial. Search online for Evolution Financial Madison.
Evolution Financial is a registered investment advisor with the state of Wisconsin.
Madison, tune in every weekday from 11 to 2 on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM for the Tom Hartman program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live right here on Devil Radio.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnier with your headlines. The Waukesha community came together Sunday for the annual Christmas parade, a little more than 1 year after the tragedy of 2021. This year's parade, themed Peace on Earth, began with the crowd singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The parade stepped off with a banner in remembrance of those who died last year, honoring the victims, survivors, families, and first responders. Hundreds of people lined the curbs and cheered as the Dancing Grannies led the parade through the route, also marching the Waukesha Blazers Baseball Club and the Catholic community of Waukesha. Both groups had multiple members among the injured, including 8-year-old Jackson Sparks, who later died. Parade goers spoke of the need to show community support, honor those whose lives were lost, and celebrate the return of Waukesha's long-standing holiday tradition. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Big Monday edition. Dom, I like to let my quarterback do all my talking for me on Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
And although I was losing a little faith in the COVID king, Aaron Rodgers, he still owns your ass, Chicago. Welcome you, WCPT 820 AM listeners. The trash talking has commenced here in the NFC Norris division. Packers 28, Bears 19. I would like to just point out, all is still right in the world because the Bears still suck.
What a wonderful game. I had the opportunity to watch a little bit with my Bears loving buddy Kuchka and coax him into just a friendly wager by pushing the line. He still lost. So much fun. But I do got to tell you, Crudy, I mean, given right now, I'm looking at the NFC North standings, and while the Vikings are running away with it at 10-2, my Lions are sitting in second place at 5-7, ahead of the Green Bay Packers.
They will not make the playoffs. That's my prediction.
As long as the Lions finish higher than the Bears at the end of the season, all is right with the world.
Okay. Well, as long as they finish below the Packers, then all is right with the world. That and the fact the Bears do still suck. Sorry. All the Bears fans.
Breaking news, the Bears still suck.
Yes, they do. And also, hour one, we broke a little news to our audience. The former president would like to terminate the Constitution.
No. He came out and said today that he didn't really say that, and that's just all a lie from the fake media, even though it's still up on his Truthy social media site.
Well, that was sort of a qualified termination of the Constitution. Only if I'm not reinstated as president, then it should be terminated.
Sure, however you want to interpret it.
Broadly terminated, just really for his benefit, if I understood his logic. Tom.
Isn't everything for Trump's benefit?
Well, if he gets his way. Interesting reporting over the weekend, Tom. You put it up on the Devil's Advocates Facebook page. Donald Trump took some money from North Korea while the president didn't disclose.
What? I mean, I cannot imagine. I'm sure all the Hunter Biden laptop folks are going to be opening investigations into this immediately.
They get the gavel soon. I'm almost sure it'll be one of the first things they investigate. Almost sure, Don. I had not seen this before. You brought this to my attention. This was at the Huffington Post. Trump had hidden $19.8 million loan from North Korea linked company as president. What? Trump failed to disclose the loan, which was paid off months after he took office, Forbes reported. So Trump was actively borrowing money from North Korean companies. I mean, in the whole scheme of monies borrowed by Trump, 20 million is not an extremely large number, but the sourcing, sort of problematic. That's Kim Jong-un territory. That's behind, I don't know what you call the curtain, but it's behind it. That is behind the communist curtain.
Oh, you got to pay postage for those love letters, Crudy. And listen, $20 million is still a lot of money. Let's not, I mean, we understand we're talking about Trump in the context of hundreds of $millions. For instance, he's getting sued by this by the state of New York for $250 million. So in that term, yeah, it's not as much. Certainly $20 million is still a lot of money. Here's what the reporting says at the HuffPost. Trump owed money to LP Daewoo while he was campaigning in 2016 and into his presidency, according to the records. He didn't list. Oh, and I want minor detail here. I want to throw this out there. These documents were uncovered by the New York Attorney General's office. That's how we know that Donald Trump had this money on the books, paid it off, $20 million to a company tied to North Korea, because documents were uncovered by the New York Attorney General's office.
Well, that's unusual in and of itself, the fact that he paid it off.
Anyway, he didn't list the debt in financial disclosure filings, as candidates and presidents are expected to do, Forbes reported. Loan was paid off just over 5 months into his presidency. Forbes said the documents didn't specify who satisfied it. So there's one question, right? Daewoo is a South Korean conglomerate that partnered with Trump on a development project near the United Nations headquarters in New York City and on several other projects over the years. The company has ties to North Korea, Forbes reported, and was the only South Korean company allowed to operate a business in North Korea in the mid-1990s. Huffington Post reports that Trump may have skirted disclosure laws and not committed an outright violation because the loan was on the books of his company, the Trump Organization, and not identified as a personal loan, Forbes noted. The debt would have sparked conflict of interest concerns over an American president's indebtedness to a foreign operation vulnerable to influence by North Korea's rogue government. Trump often gushed about his close relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Such loans are largely reported on an honor system because the U.S. Office of Government Ethics has neither the resources nor the power to delve into a president's assets. If someone does not disclose a loan, OGE has no way to know. So let's think about this and know who we're talking about. Number one, the honor system. You're right. This is Donald Trump. There is no honor. There is no system. Number two, we know how Donald Trump categorizes. Yes, he may have skirted any issues because it was an outright violation because it was a loan on the books of his company, the Trump Organization. But so are the payments to Stormy Daniels. You know what I mean? That's not just because it's on the books as one way doesn't make it accurate. For example, Donald Trump or maybe the kids, whoever's got the ATM for Trump Organization, could go take $5,000 out for hookers and blow, and you could book it as professional fees or charity, and no one would know the difference so long as the books balance out unless you get audited. No one's going to know. Or you could slide in a new corporation and pay that corporation a little money laundering. No one would know. It's not going to be the honor system unless you get audited and they delve deep into these kinds of things, which we know Donald Trump's 6 years of taxes just handed over to Congress finally. We're given a couple of weeks to dig into all these things. I guarantee you, this is not the only kind of a connection that Donald Trump has with other corporations, certainly other governments, other corporations in other countries, which should certainly be looked at. I mean, if you're going to talk about influencing, these are the kinds of things that would concern any single auditor.
Dom, the question becomes, perhaps for some, why would Trump want to set the Constitution aside now? Why now? Why the timing? Why the logic of now to set aside the Constitution? He's had all this time to set it aside. Hell, he was the president. He tried. A little bit from Philip Bump here at the Washington Post. From the first months after polls closed, November 3rd, 2020, Donald Trump has been working to undo the voters' decision. This effort has ebbed and flowed in the immediate aftermath of the election. It was fairly quiet, centered on normal, feudal legal responses. Soon after, though, it became dangerous as Trump tried to encourage his allies to simply set aside his loss. And then as he drew people to Washington to oppose the moment in which Joe Biden's victory was formalized, then it ebbed again as the former president, stripped of his largest social media platforms, was forced to make his case to friendly right-wing media outlets. And then on social media platform he created, Dom, the Truthy Social. From January of 2021 until recently, Trump's rhetoric has risen and fallen largely out of public sight as he's embraced weird theories like those of the MyPillow CEO, Mike Lindell, or debunked nonsense like the film 2000 Mules as ways to advocate for his own reinstatement. This weekend, though, he went further than he has since leaving office. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude, he wrote on Truthy Social, allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. That's the Crudy Trump voice. If you haven't heard it before, I'm sure you're reaching for your radio dial.
Don't do it. You're welcome.
Don't turn it off. I'm almost done. It's obviously ridiculous to suggest that the founding fathers would advocate terminating the Constitution, given that they wrote the Constitution, right? They didn't have the termination clause. Maybe hadn't seen the movie yet. It is more ridiculous, though, to suggest that Trump's loss in 2020 was so tainted by fraud that there's no satisfactory response short of throwing out the American system and installing him as leader once again. There's no evidence of any significant fraud or deception, all caps if Trump would write it, as he also claimed in his post, at all, in fact. So why is Trump making this extraordinarily anti-democratic claim now? 3 reasons, Dom. First, his supporters have rallied around new details involving the limits on anti-Biden story in 2020. Second, the midterm elections reinvigorated his claims about election fraud. And third, his path back to the Republican nomination, much less the White House, is less certain now than at any point since he left office. And the Hunter Biden laptop story, Dom? Well, the immediate trigger for Trump's complaint was the release of the internal Twitter documents on Friday, showing how the company debated its decision to limit sharing of the New York Post story from October 2020 about a laptop belonging to Joe Biden's son. The document shared by Twitter owner Elon Musk with a sympathetic reporter, that's Matt Taibbi of Rolling Stone, right, Dom, didn't include much new information and didn't significantly change the understanding of how and why the company made the decision. They certainly did neutralize the broader context that demanded caution on the story in the first place. Instead, the release of the emails created a new nexus of attention for baseless claims that limiting the story hampered Trump's victory. So we got to throw out the Constitution, Tom. And if you're a Bears fan, you'd like to throw out the outcome of like 9 consecutive ball games, right?
Do over.
You didn't lose. You're
Ran out of time.
No, he still owns your ass. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. The big Monday edition.
And for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. Put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
But Tom, we've been following a couple of big stories this week. Truck convoy leader has no idea where he is and is driving in circles around I-495. He didn't know precisely where he was going anyways or where he was at the time. Apparently, he put the convoy back on the road, headed back up north, and he's back in Scranton. So
I totally would have protested this tyranny, but damn, the traffic was so bad.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Women get a lot of advice about self-care these days, but one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lowest level off around 27 tonight. Under overcast skies, north winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Mixed precipitation possible at times tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 37. Cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow night. Lows around 26. A dusting of snow tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Love it when we hear from you at 844-967-2789.
So Elon Musk delivered a nothing burger a la the reporting of Matt Taibbi. And normally I like Matt Taibbi at the Rolling Stone, but this was a nothing burger. The fact that the New York Post had somehow had its singular story depressed on Hunter Biden actually probably brought more attention to the fact that Twitter was suppressing this particular story about Hunter Biden and this laptop from hell he had left at a repair store with a four-name guy who wears a kilt. And anyways, Don, that was enough of an excuse over the course of the weekend for Donald Trump to say, well, of course, the Constitution should be terminated. And even Washington Post, ghostwriter for Scotty Wanker, Mark Thiessen. You remember that guy who wrote The Unintended?
Yes.
Scott Walker Can't Write. Even he is, saying this might be a bridge too far. Throwing out the Constitution may not be agreeable to some Republicans.
The quote from the very conservative Mark Thiessen in his opinion piece at the Washington Post right now, with his call to terminate the Constitution, Trump is spinning out of control. It's like the Republicans are in disarray.
Well, Dominic, did you note that there is new reporting at the Washington Post at this hour? Trump's committee, think of the Save America Super PAC, has been paying for the lawyers of key Mar-a-Lago witnesses. This may just pose a conflict, like a legal dilemma. Save America PAC has spent millions on Trump-related legal fees filing show. Some say paying for witnesses' lawyers poses a conflict. A little bit from the new reporting at the Washington Post, Devlin Barrett, Josh Dawsey, and Isaac Stanley Becker bylined here. Former President Donald Trump's Political Action Committee is paying legal bills for some key witnesses involved in the Justice Department investigation into whether Trump mishandled classified documents. I can't see any conflicts in that sentence whatsoever, Dom. Why is that problematic? Oh, yeah. Into the Trump mishandled classified documents, obstructed the investigation, or destroyed government documents, and according to people familiar with the matter. So the witnesses are being paid by the Trump Super PAC, the political fees, the legal fees, if you will, Dom. The witnesses, including Kash Patel, who has testified in front of the grand jury and is key to Trump's defense, along with Walt Nauta, a potentially critical prosecution witness, according to these people, who, like others, spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss an ongoing criminal probe. Nauta, a Trump valet, it's always the coffee boy or the who's in the prominence, Dom, has told FBI agents he was instructed by the former president to move boxes at Mar-a-Lago, even as government investigators were trying to recover classified documents at the private club and residence, according to people familiar with the matter. So the Trump valet is moving the documents from the Trump president.
After getting the subpoena.
That wouldn't be a shocker to me, Dom. And the fact that Trump is paying the legal fees. Now, Kash Patel came over from Devin Nunes's political office. Well, I guess it was his house office, but it was all a political office when he was running it. Both Patel and Nauta are represented by Brand Woodward Law, which, according to public records, has been paid more than $120,000 by Trump's Save America PAC. Stan Brand, the top lawyer at the firm, said, "There's nothing improper about the PAC paying legal bills for witnesses in the investigations." Well, not if you're cashing those checks. Apparently, you don't think it's improper, Dom. Another lawyer not involved in the case, however, said it could encourage witnesses to not cooperate.
You think?
There's no bar against third parties paying for legal fees as long as it's disclosed to the client. The ethical obligation of the lawyers to the client. This is a tempest in a teapot and another cheap shot at these people because of who they work for. Yeah, the guy that's paying their legal fees in a case that he is being investigated, and they're all prime witnesses.
Yeah, they're painted out of the pack, which is even funnier because those are all, Trump's suckers. Crudy Jim Walden, the former federal prosecutor, said the payment arrangement raises concerns about whether the reimbursement of legal fees may influence what the witnesses say or do. And he noted that if Justice Department officials have ethical concerns, they could ask a judge to, at a minimum, question the clients about whether they are certain their interests are being protected. A quote from Walden: "It looks like the Trump Political Action Committee is either paying for the silence of these witnesses for them to take the fifth or for favorable testimony," Walden said. "These circumstances should look very suspicious to the Justice Department, and there's a judicial mechanism for them to get court oversight if there's a conflict." Other witnesses represented by Brand Woodward, whose legal bills are being paid by Trump's PAC, include Trump longtime advisor Dan Scavino and at least one other personal aide who has testified in front of the grand jury, the people familiar with the matter said. "We don't comment on any vendor payments, and everything the group spends on is publicly reported and in accordance with the law," said Stephen Shung, a Trump's spokesman. Stephen Gillers, a professor of legal ethics emeritus at New York University Law School, said such arrangements are common in the corporate world and should only be concerning in some circumstances. The problems arise when the person paying the fees chooses the lawyer and has an interest in how the lawyer represents the client. Oh, I don't know, exactly in this case? He cited the case of former White House staffer Cassidy Hutchinson, who became a whole lot more cooperative with the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th assault after she switched lawyers. Gillers noted that the Justice Department can ask a judge to remove a lawyer from a case if it has reason to think the lawyer is not acting in the client's interest. Trump has been willing to have his PAC pay the bills of aides who are loyal to him or continue to work for him, the people said. The Republican National Committee has paid legal bills for Trump advisors in the past, including probes of alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election, and has shouldered more than $1.5 million in legal bills for Trump since he left office. My understanding, Crudy, though, the RNC gonna nix those payments because now Trump said he's running for president.
Is that what he says?
That's what he says. I don't believe it.
Come back with us. We'll take your phone calls. Do you believe us? Believe us. 844-96-PARTY.
Here we are, the young contender, scrappy, controversial, has an impressive reach. Devil Radio 92.7.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of the Jade Monkey. Come to the Monkey and tell them you're there because the devil sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Devil Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. I mean, that's Iowa's job. Buy a round of the Jade Monkey and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
Looking for a new pair of glasses? Ula Eyewear has you covered. As one of Madison's only local, independent, and family-owned eyewear stores, Ula has been connecting people with fun, unique, and stylish frames for nearly 25 years. With glasses, readers, and sunglasses for customers of all ages, you'll find a variety of frames to fit your style and price points to fit your lifestyle. So don't wait. Head to Ula Eyewear now at Hilldale Shopping Center and find your pair of glasses. Ula Eyewear, uniquely.
I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute. Another clash over religion and gay rights. Sagar Magani reports the Supreme Court heard the arguments today.
Lori Smith says ruling against her would force artists of all types to do work against their beliefs. Colorado and most other states have a law saying if a product is offered to the public, it must be offered to all customers.
Russia unleashed another massive missile barrage across Ukraine hours after the Kremlin claimed Ukrainian drones struck 2 air bases deep inside Russia. Arizona's top officials have finally certified the state's midterm election results. However, that opens a 5-day window for formal election challenges. Republican Carrie Lake, who lost the race for governor, is expected to file a lawsuit. Lawyer Michael Avenatti, already in prison, has been sentenced to another 14 years after admitting he cheated 4 of his clients out of millions. He's also been ordered to pay more than $10 million in restitution. I'm Ben Thomas.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. Divorce can be complicated, especially if children are involved. If you're a father and want to protect your role in your children's lives, remember Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men with matters like these for 30 years, and we'd love to help you.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Atlanta area attorneys. 404-793-0000. Online at CordellCordell.com. 1 Glen Lake Parkway Northeast, Suite 975, Atlanta, Georgia 30328.
Looking for the perfect gift? Get them a shirt from Untuck It. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked. They're the easiest way to keep him looking sharp and feeling comfortable. You can't go wrong with their super soft flannels, wrinkle-free shirts, performance shirts with stretch, and cozy sweaters that are all perfect for right now. They even have a line for her. Find the perfect gift for every guy on your list at one of 80 plus Untuck It stores or at untuckit.com. Untuck It, shirts designed.
This is Pat Kreitlow from Up North News. It's hard to keep track of what conservatives want to do with the Constitution. In St. Croix County, they want to cherry pick it, while their guy Donald Trump wants to shred it. The St. Croix County Board is considering a resolution to reaffirm their support for the Constitution. Well, just the gun parts. And they even cherry-picked the Second Amendment, conveniently leaving out the part about guns being needed for a well-regulated militia. As for Trump's weekend post about terminating the Constitution so he can be reinstalled in the White House, well, the silence from Wisconsin Republicans is deafening. Can you imagine if Hillary Clinton were saying this stuff 2 years after her loss? Also this week, the U.S. Supreme Court takes up the radical idea that state legislatures can shred their state constitution. Up North News Radio, weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m., online at upnorthnewswi.com.
I will pay for the legal fees, I promise.
So I got that going.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Happier Monday happy hour, rolling through it. Your phone calls always welcome up in here at 844-967-2789. Dom, at least we can look past the corruption of the former president and look forward to the corruption of the future Republican nominee, Ron DeSantis. You see the new reporting? Recently minted, reelected, double digits in Florida. I would point out, and I would put out if you ask nicely, Dom, but I point out.
Please?
Charlie Crist was his opponent in Florida. And Charlie Crist did not satisfactorily turn out Democratic voters. And Charlie Crist is a former governor of Florida,
Right.
but he's the former Republican governor of Florida.
Right.
So while DeSantis is being given a lot of credit for a double-digit victory over Charlie Crist, the new-style Republican beat the old-style Republican. I didn't see a Democratic candidate in that race. And no offense to Val Deming, she didn't fare well against Marco Rubio, all things considered, in her senatorial race. But I sure do wish she was top of the ticket, and it wasn't Charlie Crist.
Yeah,
They'd have
right.
done better with Val Demings running for governor, to my opinion.
I agree with that one, right, Crudy?
Let's talk about the corruption of the reelected governor as he pivots to run for the presidency, Dom. It reminds me a lot of the corruption of former Governor Scott Walker right here in the state of Wisconsin. A lot of parallels in these guys. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' inauguration celebration. Oh, it's going to be an extravaganza, Dom. Expected to be spread out over 2 days and will give up close access to donors willing to contribute between $50,000 and $1 million.
Ooh.
According to a breakdown of sponsorship packages, his inaugural sponsorship, Dom, 5 donors who give $1 million to the Republican Party of Florida will be recognized as inaugural chair sponsors who will receive tickets to a candlelight dinner the night before the inauguration. Oh, that's priceless. VIP seating at the inauguration ceremony held on the steps of the old Capitol, as well as tickets to the inaugural ball and a toast to 1 million mamas, the campaign group put together by First Lady Casey DeSantis, in a photo opportunity with the governor. $1 million gets you a photo, tickets to like 4 events, and you get to be part of Casey DeSantis's group.
And some chewy chicken.
Other packages, Don, ranging from $500,000 all the way down to $25,000 for the peasants. Also give access to many of the same events, but donors won't receive as many tickets. Right, not as many photos either, right? DeSantis's next term starts on January 3rd, and Florida governors are traditionally sworn in at noon on that day. The inauguration will give DeSantis an opportunity to demonstrate his fundraising prowess. That's how it's done. You remember when Scott Walker was at the Wisconsin State Capitol for his inauguration after 2014, so January of 15, and Scott Walker was clearly, evidently going to run for president.
Already, yes.
Like this semi-fascist DeSantis down in Florida. And he had Fraser Freeze. He had all the rich guys in the audience in the very front row. Scott Walker did. Now, I don't know if he actually sold tickets or just collected private checks, because, of course, Scott Walker didn't declare his candidacy until September of that year, but he was running all year long, Tom. He raised over $40 million for an undeclared campaign, right? Scott Walker did?
Yes.
He used the campaign finance laws. He flaunted them, much like he did in the state of Wisconsin when he was breaking the campaign finance laws and coordinating his efforts with outside groups, third-party coordination. It was illegal when he did it. And then he got the Our Wisconsin Revolution, or Our American Revolution, and, created a super PAC and basically ran for the presidency. But by the time he actually made the announcement, Tom, it was short-lived, 71 days, and then crash and burn. Well, here's what I predict. Ron DeSantis got all the fundraising prowess of Scotty Wanker after he won a recall, and he's got all the charisma of Scott Walker as well. I mean, might slightly better hair, slightly better. Certainly a more dynamic and more powerful, more photogenic wife.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy it. I mean, I know DeSantis is out there selling it, but much like Scott Walker, I mean, I don't buy it. It seems forced. It seems contrite. So I think you're right. I think this will be, his last big blow up in Florida. Politico goes on to report, and we'll just wrap it up with this one. DeSantis is not expected to formally announce his candidacy till after the regular session of the Florida legislature. But once DeSantis becomes a federal candidate, his ability to raise large amounts for Republicans in his home state will be limited, meaning that the inauguration celebration may be one of his last big events where he can help send money to the state party. Florida doesn't limit how much can be given to the state party and political action committees, nor does it bar donations from corporations. DeSantis held 2 days of events during his 2017 inauguration, which also included an appreciation event for military veterans and first responders, as well as a legislative luncheon that was held at the Florida Capitol outside the main entrance into to the House and Senate chambers. The list of events held in 2017 and in early 2023 are not quite as extensive as those held by previous Florida governors. Former Governor Rick Scott in 2011 held an inauguration parade, as well as an open house at the governor's mansion. He brought back the inaugural ball after it was scrapped in 2007 by Charlie Crist, the Republican/Democrat who just lost to DeSantis, scrapped by Crist due to the economic crisis at the time. Scott 4 years later held a 6-city jobs jamboree that featured barbecues ahead of his second inauguration. DeSantis.
He's the next big thing now. They'll talk about how much money he's got in his war chest. He'll have nearly as large a war chest, if not larger, than Donald Trump. And you know how Trump likes to compare war chests with other men.
Just sit back to back, fellas. You'll be okay.
And I think I was wrong on the timelines. Actually, Scott Walker waited until after I think it was described as his crap budget was passed through the legislature, and he signed it at Waukesha, because I was there. I was at the budget signing. And then the next day, he had Maria Butina come down for the presidential event.
The Russian NRA lady.
And then 71 days later, Scott Walker faded from the race, much like Ron DeSantis will do. Because here's what DeSantis thinks. He fits the mold. You know, if Republicans were picking a candidate out of the magazine, he comes straight out of the J.C. Penney's catalog, right? But when it comes time to debate against Donald Trump, this non-traditional candidate, and Donald Trump still will have impact over the nomination process. And I think he's going to crush DeSantis. I don't think DeSantis has any real backbone. I think DeSantis is entirely thin-skinned. I think that Trump will crush him, much like Scott Walker had his little ego and his ambitions of a presidential future crushed under the heel of Donald Trump. As soon as you put DeSantis on the debate stage with Trump, he fades. He's a little man.
Well, they're all little men.
Match up.
They all have their issues, Crudy, no doubt about it. And I think you're generally right. Of course, I don't think Trump will make it to the debate stage with DeSantis, but DeSantis has his own problems as well.
I was
Delusions
right about
of grandeur.
Janel Brandtjen running for the 8th. See, Kuchka's tweeting at you. Kuchka's got a campaign slogan. Gina suggested that you should run in Wisconsin's 8th Senate District.
Mm-hmm.
And Kuchka, the Ukrainian, says your campaign slogan, dominate.
Dominate. Oh, nice. I like that.
Dom and 8. Something like that. You know, we get a little cheer going. 844-967-2789. Dom in 8. Jack from Merrimack. Welcome, Jack. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, well, I have no idea why people aren't prosecuting Trump, even as we speak. This is getting ridiculous.
They are, Jack. What makes you think they're not?
Well, I haven't seen any charges.
The lack of indictments and charges, right, Jack?
Investigate. That's all I see.
Jack,
So-
don't you think the fact that the Philbin or the Pats, right, and Cipollone gave testimony last week to a federal grand jury, it seems to me if you're finally getting those guys and they are forced to talk and they don't have any, BS privilege claims, don't you think this seems to be getting near to the end of that particular one of many investigations into Donald Trump? Don't you see that as a good sign, Jack?
It's a good sign, but you know what? I'll believe it when I see it. He's advocating suspending the Constitution. That's advocating overthrowing the government of the United States. And that, last I read anything about it, is an unlawful act, very clearly. Free speech is one thing. It's saying, let's go out and overturn the government of the United States, the entire government, because that's what is based on the Constitution. If that isn't against the law, I don't know what is. Like I say, I don't think that's free speech anymore.
Thanks for the call, Jack. Appreciate it. Not being in a position of power, being basically an old retired guy from Florida, going off on a social media rant, I'm not clear that rises to the level of seditious conspiracy. That particular act, no. His communications with Roger Stone, perhaps, and those subsequent communications with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and all that might be something, Jack. But, the crazy old guy ranting in Florida from his beach house, I don't know if that quite gets there, but I appreciate your sentiment, Jack.
Dominic, don't know if you saw the newest headlines from the Washington Post. Stuff keeps breaking during the course of this big program. Rupert Murdoch to give deposition in Dominion's $1.6 billion lawsuit against Foxy News.
Ooh, wasn't his son supposed to testify as well?
On Monday, the Washington Post reported that the billionaire media tycoon Rupert Murdoch, will be deposed as part of the $1.6 billion defamation suit by Dominion Voting Systems against Foxy News. Here's a quote, Dom. The lawsuit alleges that the network purportedly aired false claims about Dominion's role in the 2020 presidential election to boost ratings and fight off competition from more conservative-leaning television networks. Just think about that. Just think if we had to shape the news coverage here to fight off like a farther left, like if we don't lie substantially enough to our audience, the left is going to take it from us, because there's a Newsmax and there's other
and OAN, yes, and Right Side Media and all those other fringe outlets.
According to the filing, Murdoch's deposition will be conducted remotely via video conference. Rupert Murdoch is the highest profile person to be deposed by lawyers for Dominion, which has spent the past few months hauling in network executives, producers, and hosts to answer questions about whether they knew that claims made about Dominion technology on Fox airwaves were false. I suspect they did, Dom. Many of the most egregious comments were made by unpaid guests, including Donald Trump-affiliated attorneys, Rudy Giuliani, and Kraken Sidney Powell, through though some were echoed by Fox hosts, including Jeanine Pirro, Maria Bartiromo, and Lou Dobbs, who no longer works for the company.
Weird.
Crossed the line even by Foxy News standards. This comes after Rupert Murdoch's son, Fox Corp executive chair Lachlan Murdoch, was deposed earlier today.
Excellent.
The kid has already been deposed. Daddy's next.
Well, and let's not forget or downplay the role that Fox News, not only in this case, but what they did to the national conversation. They fed into this big lie. They fed this crazy notion, knowing it was wrong, and helped foment the attack on the Capitol. That's the result.
Dominion also deposed Hannity, Pirro, Tucker Carlson, and Shepard Smith. Come back. We'll depose you on the phone next. 844-967-2789. More Devils.
Today, I believe that I'm being called to lead by helping to clear the field. I will suspend my campaign immediately.
I know now why you cry.
My mother was very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
We've mentioned, inflation is going to be an issue. Let me ask you this. What would you like to see Donald Trump do if you were here? What did you suggest Biden do to address the inflationary pressures we're facing right now?
Well, I can't tell you that because that would be something you could counter and defeat Trump with, or the Republican Party. So tell you.
You think Trump's taking strategy from you on talk radio, Lou?
I mean, you're no Kid Rock, Lou.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lowest level off around 27 tonight. Under overcast skies, northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Mixed precipitation possible at times. Highs level off around 37. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 26. A dusting of snow tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, sort of interesting. David Blaska, known curmudgeon, sort of a GOP guy. We actually took his invitation to crash Scott Walker's party at the RNC at Shooters on the River, if you recall. He was an alternative RNC delegate, and he said, "Come to the party." So we did.
We did.
But Blaska and I, through strange relationships, politics makes strange bedfellows, Tom. But we're friends on Facebook. And Blaska posted up an article from the National Review. When Trump promises to be a tyrant, take him at his word. And just one paragraph that Blaska chose to share with his buddies on Facebook, I guess myself included. Trump's victory in 2016 was free and fair, and his loss in 2020 was too. Trump lost his reelection bid because he was an ill-disciplined bore. And if he were to secure the nomination in 2024, he'd lose that race for the same reason. One does not have to renounce his many achievements, as it's written here at the National Review, in office, to observe the man as a loser and a cheat, or to notice that he's turned a significant number of his fans into losers and cheats as well. What Trump did in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 election was monstrous. What he has taken to suggesting since is even worse. Terminate the Constitution, baby. Get rid of it. Reinstate me. And let's not forget, Robin Vos, the Assembly Speaker, GOP leader, effectively legislative leader in the state, was the very last January 6th witness, because Donald Trump was still pressuring him this year to decertify and overturn the outcome of the 2020 election before this weekend, in light of a nothing burger being delivered by Elon Musk and Matt Taibbi. Effectively, what? They took down some junk pics of Hunter Biden. That's the big breaking news. And Trump thinks you should terminate the Constitution because, of course, it was so unfair to him that people didn't get to see Hunter Biden's dick pics on Twitter. Throughout the election.
844-967-2789. And how many and how many Republicans, Curdy? It's one thing for Blaska to come out and say something. He's not an elected official right now. Where's Robin Vos? Where's Scott Fitzgerald? Where's Gallagher, right? Where are these Republicans who claim to be so in love with the Constitution? And what? McCarthy said it. He wants to be the speaker, right? Republicans have their chance. When they get on the floor for the first time in years, they're going to read the Constitution word for word, line by line.
Who's going to read the 3/5 Amendment, I wonder?
Yeah, right, exactly. And where are you now? Where their silence, of course, it amounts to support. 844-967-2789. We support our audience. Dick, you are next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Well, Gallagher's dead. Oh, that's the comedian.
Oh, I love Gallagher.
Yeah, I did too. After this last weekend, guys, I'm sorry, I couldn't agree with Jack from Merrimack more. I could not. At what point is this not like tantamount to yelling fire in a theater? This is a treasonous statement from this clown this last weekend. And it's very, very dangerous to this country. And here's the worst thing about it in my mind is there's nary a one. Cheney has said something. Otherwise, no one in the Republican side of the aisle has said anything about that ridiculous, crazy statement of his.
Well, Dick, here's the difference that I would draw, a subtle distinction, if you will. His newest call to terminate the Constitution, he's not empowered to do that. But his prior incitement of a mob during January 6th, he did have that within his ability to do. So when we talk about these strong words like seditious conspiracy or treason, I would draw a distinction with both you and Jack's characterization of this current statement. Let's set aside the Constitution, terminate it. Well, you could say whatever you want. That's actually enshrined in that very Constitution he'd like to set aside, the First Amendment part. You can say that. But I think it will be proven in a court of law, Dom, that he was insightful of the mob that he incited the violence and the coup against democracy, against his own vice president. That part, I think, is the actual seditious conspiracy, the actual treason that will be on his tombstone someday.
Well, and the continued response from Trump while out of power, these same anti-constitutional remarks, goes to state of mind, if nothing else. 844-967-2789. Jeff from Madison.
You didn't get better since January 6th.
Right. Jeff from Madison, you're up. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff. No, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. Call us back. Let's go, Paul. You are next. Welcome. What do you got for us, Paulie?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, I don't really get the good afternoon, Devils, by the way. Hey, I don't really get the DeSantis thing whenever I see him on TV. The man, I don't know if I've ever seen him smile or laugh or anything, but I'll tell you what, if Trump isn't taken down, and I don't know, I'm starting to get worried. He may escape all this stuff. I think he wins the nomination for the GOP again.
I sure do hope so, Paul. That would really make me a happy man. If Donald Trump is the nominee of the Republican Party, I don't care if it's Joe Biden or your mama, the Democratic Party is going to win the White House. And we'll go to your mama's inauguration together, Wisco.
That'd be cool. But I don't know what they're waiting for to pull the trigger on Trump anyway, but DeSantis scares me actually a little more than Trump, because I think if it's possible, he's smarter than Trump, a little more smooth, if you know what I mean. And as far
he's smooth and smart, but he's also a little man, much like Trump. But Trump got the national platform. He's had the presidency, and he has like 33% of the nation behind him. And DeSantis may have the more logical, the Paul Ryan sort of Republicans, but how'd that work out the last time around for Scott Walker or Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio? When you put him up next to Trump, Trump is the right kind of crazy for the GOP base. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not usually wrong. Last 30 seconds are yours, Pizza Box. What do you got for us?
Hey, Michael.
Hey, let's go, Paul. Don't be scared of those clowns, man. We still got us, right? We the people. Hey, you guys have seen that movie, The Fockers, haven't you?
Yeah.
Meet the Parents sequel, yes.
Every Republican is a mother. See what I did there?
You got you, Mike.
Folks, thank you all for listening. That makes you all very, very clever people, and you have excellent taste. You're going to give the podcast for the holidays, because you're also probably cheap like Dom. I triple dog dare you, Dom, in 8. Dom in 8. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates.
Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back.